Hey, Suits, are you getting the seniors discount anywhere these days? Hey, $1's $1, and if you can stack them, that's even better, right?
I absolutely love it. In fact, my trip with my buddy to Europe this year, in the off season, we were actually searching out for all of the different tours and castle visits and whatever it might have been that we were doing from a tourist perception. We were looking for those discounts. We were, and you should have seen the celebration when, for $1.50 because you're over 60, you get $1.50 off. And man, high fiving. It's which is probably an image of a 60-year-old high fiving over $1.50 is probably not a great one. But yeah, I'm pumped by it. Yeah.
Yeah. We're at that age. Man. We're taking advantage of the discounts that come our way. Yeah.
Good parking spots up front, Sharky.
I'm not quite to those spots yet, but it's getting close.
Suits, where are you? What games are you doing this weekend? Are you on an East Coast tour?
I'm on an East Coast tour. The new mandate. We have a new sort of executive producer. I don't know if it's that's exact title yet, but new guy in charge that's been with us for a long time and really felt that it was not great for us at the network or really even the teams to have sort of a Western broadcast team and an Eastern broadcast team. So usually Rod Smith and Dwayne Ford would do all the East games, and then Dustin and I would do the West, and then Marshall Ferguson would be mixed in there. When we have the 3 games in 3 days and things like that. But there's a new mandate now, guys, and they think that we should be going to each city, making sure we visit with each city so we can go and talk to the players personally on the field at times. The PR people were more engaged with them across the league rather than just in the West Division. It's a lot of different sort of mandates. So I'm out here in Toronto, and then I will be doing the Hall of Fame game Saturday night in Hamilton.
Nice tour. Well, you've brought up the 2 games that I think are, to me, they're the biggest. The Lions Stampeders one I know is pretty big, but in terms of playoff implications for these 4 clubs, they're huge. Als and Argos Friday night. Is this a chance for the Alouettes to get ahead, or can the Argos find a diamond in the rough with their 3rd-string quarterback?
Yeah, I'm not even sure if it's 3rd. I mean, both these teams are in similar situations where they've gone through a bunch of different quarterbacks at different times. I mean, McLeod Bethel-Thompson, we know the game he came off. I know we're putting that to bed. That one's gone in Saskatchewan. But, with Montreal, they feel pretty good about the game he just came off of. They feel good about their defense getting their footing again. That 5-game losing streak, their last 3 games, they were giving up well over 30 points a game, which was sort of unheard of at the beginning of the year for the Montreal defense. So they've kind of found their game again. And for Toronto, man, the changes on that offensive unit. I mean, Jared Daggy is going to start at quarterback. They don't have DeMonte Coxey. They are basically going with Not I wouldn't say backup receivers because these guys have played this year. I'm talking about guys like Jake Hurstville and guys like that have played this year and actually played pretty well, but just not their star players. So changes on the O-line, changes at tailback, and the big one changes at quarterback. So I think it's going to be a real challenge. I don't make predictions. Every journey is different, but it's going to be a challenge for Toronto. Even though they're at home, it's going to be a challenge without Nick Arbuckle and the way he was playing. Arbuckle was throwing for around, almost 800 yards in his previous 2 games.
Yeah, he'd come alive, that's for sure.
Yeah. Suits, one of the things that when I saw last weekend, I know you said we want to put the Ryder thing to bed and all of that. Now, as I think about that game, and I think of just the emotion or maybe lack thereof from the Riders, because when I saw on the flip side of that, we saw earlier Ryan Dinwiddie, after that field goal was kicked, he's up and down the sidelines. There's words with the Edmonton bench. They're fired up. They're fighting for their lives. Every game means something from here on in. And same with the Eskimos. I love the urgency. Now, you've played. Can you beat a team that has the will? Because sometimes that's all it takes, is that belief where guys are like, I'll fight you to the last punch. It doesn't matter if I get knocked out. I'm in this to win this.
Yeah, I've talked about that before with regards to, playoff hockey and the difference between playoff hockey and regular season hockey, and how, we expect pro athletes to play at their best all the time. I mean, be prepared to play at your best every game, because it may be your last opportunity. So, that's kind of a goes without saying, mantra, but we're still human beings. And, when you go to back-to-back, and we talked about this on Tuesday, but the back-to-back Labor Day game and then the Banjo Bowl, and win both of those games. And that second game has been such a tough win for Saskatchewan for so long. And then win it. And then know that you have a bye right after the Montreal game. I looked at it and I thought I should have saw this coming, that they weren't going to play their best, that there was going to be a little bit of a intensity drop, let's put it that way. And Montreal was coming off a bye and 5 straight losses. A very good team that was coming off 5 straight losses. And there was a level of urgency for them, and the intensity was just higher. We talked about the corners, and we for Saskatchewan, and how Tyson Philpott, really took advantage of that. But the corners had nothing to do with giving up 150 yards on the ground either.
No.
So that's an intensity issue, and I'm sure the players felt like and thought they were well prepared, thought that they were doing everything they needed to do to get ready like they had every game. But you're also a human being, and you sometimes can't control it. It's organic, and you're not sure why, and you get out there and you're just a step behind. And they certainly were in that game. I expect it to be back next week when they get back from the bye. But, clearly different levels of intensity in that one.
We're going to see some changes in the playoff setup as we come up through this weekend, or at least we should, with all the games that there's so much affecting the standings. But the Lions and Stampeders, this is a chance for the Lions to get themselves into third, make a big splash. But it's also Mr. Vernon Adams' first chance against his former team. What do you see in this contest as we prepare for tomorrow night?
Yeah, and Calgary coming off a bye. I guess if you're a Rider fan, you're sort of cheering for BC,
without a doubt. Yeah,
because that would keep it sort of muddy in the third place and crossover playoffs. Keeps that really muddy, and it allows you to keep the separation with Calgary. But yeah, that's the main storyline going into that one, is Vernon Adams and Nathan Rourke, and Vernon Adams will do and say the right things. He's not going to react like Ryan Dinwiddie did at the end of the last game, which, by the way, I found quite refreshing in today's day and age. I
Me
really
too.
did.
I loved it. It's great.
Yeah. And I talked to Ryan this week, and I told him that. I said, in this, everybody gets canceled and so sensitive and all this stuff. You know what? You showed your emotion. Good for you.
Exactly.
And he goes,
yes.
He goes he did apologize to his team. And he doesn't want that to get out of hand. I mean, that type of feeling in the wrong hands could cost you a game because of a bad penalty and a bad decision within the game. But he apologized to his team, and he said, look, my emotions were there. But what I found out was the trash talking had begun in warm-up, and his players were ready to just go at it because they're on the same sideline early in the game. And they all controlled their emotions long enough to get to the end of the game, and then Dinwiddie reacted. But, Yeah, I don't think Vernon Adams in the Calgary-BC matchup is going to show that kind of emotion. I don't think he's going to be trash talking the sideline. He's got a lot. He's a focused guy. He's one of those guys that is taking mental reps while he's waiting for the team to huddle up. Do you see Vernon Adams often, warming up his arms while he stands there waiting for the huddle to come together? And he's loosening, keeping his shoulder loose, and he's visualizing and actually going through a throwing motion with his hand without the ball in it, just because he's visualizing the next play. So, I think he's going to be under control, but I guarantee you he would love to beat, Nathan Rourke in a big way here. And just sort of a little kind of maybe wave to the sideline to say you kept the wrong guy. So
yeah.
That is the storyline at Vancouver for sure. But the standings part of it is more important, and the standings part of it for Saskatchewan is BC wins. That's better for them because Calgary would still be in striking distance if they do.
Exactly. Yeah.
I think beyond that, Vernon Adams Jr., and I don't know if anybody's mentioning this, hasn't played very well in the past couple of games. He's played kind of okay at times, but not complete games like at the start of the season. He needs to get back on a roll and develop a little more consistency, I think. Suits, it's week 16. There's still a lot of football left to be played, but if you're asking me, this is a must-win for Winnipeg in Ottawa on Saturday for them to keep their playoff hopes alive. And who would have thought we'd be talking about maybe the Bombers missing the playoffs this year? But are you in must-win Blue Bomber territory as well?
Well, I'm in must-win for both of those teams almost. Like, I've always said that must-win is really only truly when you either win and you're in, or you win or you lose and you're out. And this is not that. But with the way the standings are and the log jam that's down there, I think this is as close to a must-win for both of these teams. The team that loses that game probably doesn't make the playoffs. Like, there's a very good chance they're not making the playoffs. And that could mean Winnipeg. If, Drew Brown comes back and they get that offense firing on all cylinders, they've got great weapons in the receiving core, Ottawa does. And, let's see what they can do with Drew Brown back in the saddle. But I just feel like in that game, the team that loses that game is out of the playoffs. It's just that tight.
I agree with you on that. I do. I think that the momentum, the Bombers have lost 3 in a row. To go to 4 consecutive losses, especially without your starting quarterback. Streveler has not looked like a quarterback, like a true bona fide number one starter. I think Winnipeg's in a lot of trouble regardless come this weekend.
Yeah, it's a different look, isn't it? It's the mystique of that team. The 7-point lead they have before they got off the bus is no longer there.
No.
And it's one of those things where you knew that cycle at some point was going to come to an end. Now they've got to try and scratch and claw to get in, and just get in. They're not going to have the last 2 or 3 games of the regular season like really buys because they can play backups because they've already locked up first place. I mean, that's been what it's like for at least a couple of the years over the last 5 and their appearances in the Grey Cup. And, it's going to be a completely different story for them this year.
I got one final question for you from my end before Maz closes you off. Any new bear sightings, Bob? Is it Bob or Brenda? Are we confirmed yet? Do we have any new bear sightings?
You know what? I just on Tuesday, I had taken, before I did the hit with Barney, I had taken my dog Maximus for a walk, and from my deck, I can see a path, like it's part of our walking path, and he usually does his business back there, and then we keep walking around, and I can see the path from my deck. So we walked around through the path, came around back on the deck. We were just sitting there, and he got up with, when the dog smells something completely, he was ears pointed and all of that stuff. And I went like, what's going on? And I look, and there goes Brenda or Bob, whoever, right through the trail that we were just on 10 minutes earlier. So I was kind of like, man, I wonder if it's time to have like a noisemaker or some bear spray or something, because we almost crossed paths, and it's not like a huge trail where you could kind of veer off. It's a really narrow kind of green space, and I thought we were just there 10 minutes ago. But he looks good, and the good news is I was a little worried about that Bob may have been either, taken away or what might have happened, because I hadn't seen him for a while. But he's back there,
well,
and he looks healthy. And you know what, Sharky? As he was walking through the trail, he was walking over shrubs and just basically grinding a path. Like he did not care what was in front of him. He was knocking down little trees and just walking straight through everything. And I thought, oh boy,
we got to get a bell for you, Suits. You got to be wearing a bell now when you go out, right? Like you and the dog each got to have a bell on as you walk through the forest.
Exactly. I know that Maximus would react, and that would give me a heads up. But I just hate to turn a corner around a bush or something, and there he is. I mean, that would be the. What do you do then? But anyway,
he's still there. He's still there.
He's alive and well and still in the same neighborhood.
Love it. Love it.
Not if you had a few Saskatchewan Rider fans visit, Suits. Don't worry, we can get that taken care of in about an hour's time. We'll wrap on this. And about an hour ago, we had Darius Rucker on, Hootie of Hootie and the Blowfish, and we asked him, "What's your favorite NFL team?" He said the Miami Dolphins. So, Suits, even when you're rich and famous and you have a lot going for you, there's always things that make you go, ugh. He doesn't have a lot of hope. And I'm sure you're probably going to be watching the game at the hotel, but they've already had a players-only meeting after week 1. Mike McDaniel looks like a dead man walking. And now Tua's out there saying he's jealous of how good Josh Allen is. Is this going to be a blowout in Buffalo tonight?
Well, from where I am right now in Toronto, I know that this city will hope so. I mean, there's enough Buffalo fans here, but Darius, first of all, is a country guy, not the Hootie and the Blowfish guy. He is a full-on country. In fact, when I was in Nashville, I got a chance to see him, and also his song "Wagon Wheel." Actually, it's not his song, but it was. The cover that he did,
yes.
and made big money off Wagon Wheel. I mean, that was huge. But my son used to joke in Nashville when he was playing the honky tonks. He said, Dad, you could play the first verse of Wagon Wheel, Darius Rucker's version. Play the first verse at Legends Corner at the top of Broadway, and then you can play the second verse at the next pub down the street, and then you just go down Broadway because they're all playing the same song, and it's always Wagon Wheel, and you can play it all the way down the street, jumping back up on stage. He got so sick of Wagon Wheel, he promised he'd never play it again. But that's my Darius, favorite song for sure, and good country guy too. I like his voice, very cool.
Good.
Yeah, but too bad for him on the Dolphins. That's too bad.
It's too bad.
All right, Suits, enjoy Ontario. After the games, if you stick around, if you end up in Parliament on Monday to make a few suggestions of how you think we need to get this country going in whatever direction you think it needs to go, feel free. Listen, you're a voter. You can probably pop in, say your piece, and do all that. Have a great call this weekend, and we'll catch up with you on Tuesday.
Buddy, I got a few ideas. I'll run it by them.
All right.